and massive disruption of business operations. It's very difficult to even summarize the huge challenges that the Ukrainian population and society is actually undergoing. There are many, many challenges, and certainly one of the challenges now, tomorrow, and in the medium term, is how to make sure that the Ukrainian people have the right skills to be able to endure the current very difficult situation, but actually to prepare for the recovery and reconstruction. I think, again, the Ukrainian labor market has shown significant resilience among many other dimensions of the society of Ukraine, but it's very important to build a human-centered recovery for Ukraine. So this is very, very important. So these are the topics we would like to discuss today. We have 2 rounds of discussions, and it's really my honor, my great pleasure to introduce the speakers for this first round. First of all, I'd like to introduce Yulia Sviridenko, the first Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine and the Minister of Economic Development and Trade. We had the opportunity to hear from you, Minister. It's a great pleasure to have you in this panel. Then we have Minister Svenja Schulze, the Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development of the Federal Republic of Germany. Welcome, Minister. We have Anna Bondarenko, the head of the Ukrainian Volunteer Service. Welcome. It's a great pleasure to have you with us. We have Isobel Coleman, the Deputy Administrator for Policy and Programming of the U.S. Agency for International Development. Welcome. And Barbara Rambusek, the EBRD Director for Gender and Economic Inclusion. Welcome to all of you. Please join me in a round of applause for this great panel we have. Unfortunately, before we start, I have a small but important housekeeping message to all our speakers. We have so many issues to discuss, so many great speakers, 2 rounds, and only 1 hour. So I really count on all of you to keep your intervention within the 3 minutes. One of our colleagues has actually a green, a yellow, and a red card. Red card means that the time is over. I really hope not to be able to see that, not to show it to you, because the issue we are dealing with are very, very important. So, Minister Sviridenko, I really would like to start with you. Your government is facing, of course, immense demographic workforce challenges. How can these challenges be addressed, and which kind of skill set and in which sector there is high demand for, and there will be in the coming months, in the coming year, especially in the recovery phase? I know that you have a video to show, but the floor is yours, Minister.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for hosting us here. Thank you for this panel. And yes, I would offer, first of all, to watch a small video, and then we would return to your questions.
What comes to mind first when you hear about Ukrainians? Courage, bravery, creativity, ordinary people creating extraordinary things. Despite the full-scale invasion, despite the fact that 6.5 million Ukrainians are currently abroad and another million are defending the country, Ukraine is working and developing, and Ukrainians can even more. The key to this is creating conditions for the return of people back home, supporting retraining programs, developing smart migration policies. Veterans and IDPs, youth and women, every Ukrainian should have opportunities to realize their potential and talents at home. That's why we educate and retrain, help to create businesses, work with partners to secure grants, and implement workplace inclusion for those who are working in Ukraine now, and for those who will return in future. Together, we can not just rebuild the country, we can reinvent Ukraine. So join this remarkable journey, because strong and vibrant Ukraine is a steadfast partner for Europe.
Yes, so now we can discuss this very important issue. So Ukraine faces unprecedented demographic challenges, external migration, temporary occupation of the territories, increasing numbers of deaths. So everything leads to population decline. So according to the estimation of the Institute of Demography, the population within the government-controlled territory is 31.5 million Ukrainians. Before full-scale war, 42 million. Also, you probably know and you're aware of this number, so 6.5 million Ukrainians are currently living abroad. So migration, mobilization process that are in place and other difficulties, all these factors lead to structural unemployment. This means that there are people in the labor market and employers, and the skills of people are not satisfied by the demand driven by the business. So it calls structural employment, and unemployment rate actually now is rather high. It's 18.7%. According to the National Bank's estimates. But for business, it's very hard to find people, to find proper specialists. And according to our main survey, so 58% of businesses in a recent survey indicates that they have problem with employees. And it's among the top ranks problem. I would say it's number one problem because of mobilization and because of the temporarily displaced people. So business, there is a big request from business to provide training and retraining program for the government side to fulfill this shortage of the specialists. Also interesting fact, but also very natural, that biggest number of businesses that are affected by lack of personnel are in the sectors with historically high share of male employees, such as construction, such as transport, mining, energy, also in agriculture, processing industry. But also we see that there is a demand for new professions because of the war situation, such as psychologists, rehabilitation specialists, and medical workers, professionals in the construction sector, energy sector workers, defense industry. As a result, we see another trend when women start to choose profession that were previously statistically dominated by men. It also, I would say, natural, and it's not for the first time in the history. Previously, the previous wars also faced the same situation. For example, today Ukrainian women are taking courses to become tractor drivers, to become welders, bodyguards, and others. And the challenge we are facing requires comprehensive solution, and we see that there are 4 components to the work. First is to respect for the labor rights of Ukrainians that are living abroad, because it's 6.5 million people. Also creating conditions for returning Ukrainians back by different programs, granting programs, also mortgage programs, certificate for the damaged residential buildings. Also, the third one is supporting retraining programs, both inside and outside the country, and developing smart migration policy. From our side, what we are doing like a government, we are working now on the new labor code, which will update the legislative framework from Soviet practices to modern approach. We are adapting current policy to the wartime challenges. For example, the procurement for the education of specialists 2023. In 2024, we increased the number of psychologists, the rehabilitation specialists, and other relevant professionals that are really demand right now on the market because of the war situation, because of the fact that veterans are returning back from the front line and need to be socialized, and we lack of the proper specialists. Also, the third, we are launching several skilling and reskilling programs, and for example, we are providing different types of granting programs for setting up small businesses for women, for the veterans. We understand that a big demand in case if people are not able to find the suitable position, they are able to set up their own businesses, small one, and we, like a government, provide them proper incentives. And women empowerment, I think that even despite the fact of war, it's still a big problem because the gender gap in salary is around 18%. So it means that women now receive only 80% of salary that the men receive for the same work. And that's why we are really grateful to our partners that agreed to set up and to launch this Skills Alliance program, because I think it's extremely important right now to train and retrain people, and to pay a special attention to retrain women in situation when at least 1 million men are on the front line, and the role of women are fully reconsidered, and women today are the core of the society, and they need to get additional skills, additional training, retraining. So that's why we're grateful that there is like 500 million euro that is going to be focused directly on the Skills Alliance, and we're grateful to EBRD and to Svenja Schulze for her leadership in this initiative, because we think that it would be extremely important right now to find the opportunity how to cover this gap, this shortage of the specialists on the labor market, because as I always emphasize that macrofinancial aid goes for covering social expenditure. All military needs were covering by our own income, so it means that we need to respond on the businesses' requests. And the first request that they're facing right now, it's a shortage of the specialists, shortage of the proper specialists with the proper skills and experience. So that's why we, like a government, those kind of programs that we have launched, and it covered maybe 10,000, 20,000 people. We need to find a way how to scale up, because the question is about millions of Ukrainians that need to be reskilled. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, First Vice Prime Minister. I turn to you, Minister Schulze. I think the Minister showed with us what I think was a very inspiring video, and I think she highlighted some of the major challenges. There is a panoply of action done at the national level, but also at the international level. The question to you, I guess, is how can the international community really help? I think the Minister was mentioning the Skill Alliance. What are the key actions that the international community can put in place in order to help Ukraine to respond to the major challenges when it comes to skills?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Julia just described how hard the challenge is that Ukraine is facing when it goes to the skilled workforce, and which shortages are seen now in the Ukraine. So what is needed is to mobilize the international community to join our forces, and that is what we do with the Skills Alliance. We aim to mobilize the international community to provide more financial, more technical support for skilled workforce and for reconstruction. And we launched this Skills Alliance today. And today we have more than 45 members. We still look for other members. Please join us. 45 is not enough. We're making commitments today from 730 million euros for this initiative, and that is still not enough because the challenge is so big. The Skills Alliance brings together traditional upskilling, vocational training projects, as you all know that, and combine that with innovative approaches, regional initiatives, and supporting particular groups. And I think the new idea of this Skills Alliance is it's not just about any kind of work or training. It is important to me and that Ukrainians have access to decent jobs with fair pay that meet international labor standards and also promote gender equality. In the morning, we heard the president, and Zelensky said that it is important to have decent jobs so that the Ukrainians that stay abroad come back and know that they have the right conditions. And therefore it is crucial that we have trade unions come in. They take care that the conditions for decent work are secured, and that is why we have also invited trade unions to this year's Ukraine Recovery Conference. Only the long-term and decent employment prospects for Ukrainians, especially for the women, will give Ukraine a sufficient skills stuff so that it can become a powerhouse, like Julia said before, a powerhouse in Europe. And I would like to invite you all to be part of this Skills Alliance, because we need to join the forces. There are a lot of ideas what we can do to support Ukraine in providing substantial technical and financial support to skilled workforce and to the needs that are in Ukraine. But We need more ambition, we need more companies, we need more countries in this alliance and joining our forces to be really successful. So that is why we launched this Skills Alliance today.
Thank you very much, Minister. First of all, also for your leading role in promoting the Skill Alliance. And I think I can only underline what you said. Please join the Skill Alliance. I think as a very important program, and I think there is absolute need. Thank you also for mentioning the need to create jobs, but also quality jobs. And this is a way for the Ukrainian in Ukraine, but also for those who have left the country but would like to come back. I'd like to turn to you, Anna Bondarenko. Of course, the consequence of this war are just unprecedented for all the socioeconomic groups. But there is one group, and I would like you to focus on that, and these are the young people. Young people are the Ukraine of tomorrow, and we need them to be able to basically play a role, to finish their study, to acquire the skill and competence, and to help also the reconstruction. So what do you think are the major challenge for young people, and what kind of skill they might need in order to be really leading this process of rebuilding Ukraine?
Yeah, thank you so much. And at the outset, I would like to thank both the governments of Germany and Ukraine for bringing up the topic of youth at this year's URC for the first time. And of course, I would like to thank the Ministry of Youth and Sports, who suggested me as a speaker on their behalf to voice the position of 10 million of Ukrainians who are currently living both in Ukraine, but also including those 2 million people who got temporary protection at the EU. So first of all, the war's impact on every aspect of society can hardly be overrated. We all know that unprecedented displacement, lack of access to healthcare, to education, lack of safety and loss of life have a huge impact on the whole of society. And of course, they do have an impact on youth as well. All of those challenges, they put at risk not just a well-being of young Ukrainians, but actually their perspectives and their futures. And that is something that I would like to highlight today. On the other hand, the formation under a decade-long war has had a big impact on Ukrainian youth. It forced Ukrainian young people, as myself, to mature way faster than their peers from all over the world, from Europe as well. Usually, skills and knowledge that are acquired at the later stages of life, people in Ukraine were forced to acquire them in their early 20s or mid-20s. Many Ukrainian young people have found themselves in a need to take responsibility not just for their own lives, but also for the lives of their loved ones and for the broader community. And becoming a volunteer, serving as a part of the local government, joining the armed forces of Ukraine, or just simply working tirelessly on their jobs every day, all those paths, even though they're very different for every single person, they show that Ukrainian youth has become more mature and more strong. And for me personally, it also shows that youth is not an object, it is an agent in many processes and in the recovery process as well. So therefore, the objective of the youth policy should be to ensure that young people have enough opportunities and grassroots capacity support to contribute to the development efforts. According to the recent UNICEF research, investment in youth brings a revenue at a 2.5 rate in 6 years. Also, the UNICEF research showed that investment of each dollar in youth digital tools, such as, for example, the volunteer platform, brings around $4.5 back in the economy in 6 years. So supporting the young people is not important just on the human dimension, it's also important as an economic investment. On the other hand, we definitely need to review the current investment system in our education, the current efforts to support capacity building, grassroots education, but also to support those initiatives that help Ukrainian youth to transform quickly the knowledge they get on education and being able to put it into individual and collective action for good. Local organizations, youth advisory boards, youth councils, youth-led initiatives can become multipliers of recovery efforts so that youth can be a part of the accountability process, of visibility process of any recovery efforts taken on the ground. It also helps to make social cohesion more capable in the level of Hromada, the region, and all over Ukraine. Cross-sectoral and inclusive youth engagement and solidarity are key to the long-lasting efforts of recovery process. So youth engagement can also be amplified and supported by career guidance programs, by leadership programs, by digital engagement tools, youth exchanges, and also vocational training that helps to link the knowledge to practical background. And also in Ukraine, we do have cases that have proven itself to be successful. For example, the National Volunteer Platform run by the UNICEF, Ukrainian Volunteer Service, and the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Or, for example, Building Ukraine Together, initiative that helps people to become a part of the development process right now in their regions. So, to my mind, empowering young people as agents of recovery requires multiple stakeholders, including the government of Ukraine, international and national organizations, local authorities, but mainly young people themselves who are every day on the ground tirelessly working to support and to contribute to the recovery process.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bondarenko. I think youth are agents. Youth have played already a major role during these very difficult phases of your country, but also thank you for reminding the fact that investing in youth has a huge return, not only socially, but also economically. I'd like to turn to you, Mrs. Coleman. Of course, the international community has rallied to support Ukraine in many, many different ways. I think we'd like to hear what is the role of USAID in supporting also this major effort of the country to build, rebuild, and adapt the skills for the Ukrainian population workforce.
Okay, well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and we are really thrilled to be part of the Skills Alliance because, as we've heard repeatedly, to get people to come back to Ukraine, they need high-quality jobs. To provide a future for youth, they need high-quality jobs, and that really is the crux of Ukraine's recovery. So we have been investing for many years, actually, in skills training in Ukraine. But the work that's going on now, and through the Skills Alliance too, to be able to do it in a very targeted fashion, matching the people who are underemployed. And youth have been underemployed, veterans have been underemployed, returning veterans, IDPs underemployed, women underemployed. As Yulia mentioned earlier, you know, a lot of women are now trying to fill jobs that have traditionally been held by men. But there is a transition that needs to happen. There's a retraining and upskilling. So we have been working in Ukraine in a variety of targeted sectors to help fill those gaps, to train people so that they can really take the economy to the next level. I think that USAID brings three things to the table that helps us do this work. One is that we have worked for decades with small and medium enterprises in Ukraine. And so we know that sector very well, and we work with these small companies. We hear from them what their needs are, so it allows us to be very focused and tailored in our approach on the skills training. Two, we've worked in the tech sector. Now, young people really do want to work in the tech sector. When I was in Ukraine last month, you know, what is going on in the tech sector in Ukraine is really, truly remarkable. In the midst of a war, it's a sector that has continued to grow by double digits. And, you know, there's just so much opportunity in the tech sector. And so we have been working with the tech sector. I mean, we helped launch the DIA application and have worked with the various ministries in Ukraine who are very much involved in the different tech sectors. But being able to bring some of our tech expertise, private sector tech expertise from the United States to partner with companies and create training centers, cybersecurity. You know, this is a huge area. Ukraine is on the front lines of cyber attacks by the Russian Federation, and every company from, you know, hospitals to utility companies are going to need people who are expert in cybersecurity. So training those elements too, and then actually working with the private sector to understand what the needs are. You know, to train people is one thing, but you have to be able to match them with the job so that, you know, the training is very, very relevant. So these are the three things, you know, working with SMEs, focus on tech, and also very, very private sector focus so that it's really almost like a just-in-time training. So we know where the needs are and are able to meet those needs. In just the last couple of years, we've trained 68,000 people, and almost half of those have been women, veterans, IDPs, disabled people in Ukraine. So we've really made an effort across the board to be looking at those underserved populations and matching them to the employment needs that exist. I mean, you had mentioned construction as an example. There's a new study that says that construction companies today can only fill 40% of the jobs that they need. And this is in a depressed market for construction. Just imagine what it will be like when construction picks up with reconstruction in the country. So making sure that it has the trained and skilled workforce that it needs is absolutely critical to getting people back and to economic recovery. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for telling us about how the experience, long-standing experience of USAID has been crucial. And I think for point the fact that there is a need to actually improve the matching of people, workers with jobs, many of whom, many workers have to adapt to new jobs. But also, thank you also for mentioning the crucial investment also in the technology sector, in the digital sector, in which indeed we heard also from the previous panel, Ukraine is actually doing very well. I move to you, Mrs. Rambusek. There are many challenges here. But one of the challenges actually try to help the war veterans. We heard that also from the previous panel. And this is an area in which commitment from the international financial institution can play a critical role, also as part of the Skill Alliance. So can you tell us what could be the role of the international financial institution to support Ukraine with skills, but with a particular focus on the war veterans?
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be here and to contribute to this very important discussion and panel. So, I think what we've already heard is that we all make different contributions and we all sort of contribute towards investing in skills, investing in human capital in Ukraine. At EBRD, we are a primarily private sector investor, and in a way we start with the jobs, we start with our clients, we start with where the vacancies are. And as we have heard, Ukraine is in this paradox situation where actually there's high unemployment in the country, but there are also large numbers of vacancies beyond the construction sector across all parts of the economy. So really matching people into those jobs and giving them the skills in order to be able to fill those gaps that are left by people who were recruited into the armed forces, left the countries, are IDPs, is absolutely critical. And this is exactly where our role comes in. And this is also why we're delighted to be part of this Skills Alliance here and form a partnership. So we start with our clients. We're the largest institutional investor in Ukraine. We've invested over 4.2 billion euros in the last 2 years into the real economy, into companies that provide jobs that need people. And we work with these clients to build their capacity to know how to invest in skills, how to reach those people in the labor market that are looking for jobs, and how to build partnerships also with training providers, with universities, with vocational training providers, in order to give people the right skills that they need. A focus on veterans in this context is, of course, particularly important, because we know that there are about 1 million veterans waiting to come back. And with our clients, we've already integrated about 10,000 veterans into a broad range of different types of jobs. So this focus on veterans is a commitment that we are making and that our clients are also making. Maybe another point very quickly is clients or companies are hungry for people because they cannot fill their jobs. And so what we actually see, the message we see, there is also an opportunity. Companies want to be the best employers that they can possibly be. They want to reach the young people, they want to reach the women, they want to reach the veterans. So we are advising companies, we are working with companies, and we do that also in partnership with the Ministry for the Economy, with an upcoming human capital charter for companies that they can then sign up to, where they receive toolkits and advice and guidance in terms of how to integrate veterans, how to integrate young people, how to invest in skills, how to create work environments for people with disabilities that work for them. So it's all these multiple, very complex challenges that companies face. If we can jointly support them, we can really open up the economy, we can really open up opportunities for people. And as EBRD, we see that as one of our key roles, to play that catalytic role in partnership with others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Rambusek. I think for the role of the EBRD, but also with a specific focus of your contribution to the Skill Alliance, that was extremely interesting. We are moving to closing the first round of this session, but before that, I'd like to give the floor to two short interventions from the floor. The first one is Samu Seitolo, who is the Director for International Affairs of the Finnish National Agency for Education. 1 minute, sir, please.
Thank you, and it's really a pleasure to be here. I want to outline first that Ukraine is a priority for us, so we want to contribute to the development of Ukraine in the future as well, as long as it's needed. When I'm listening to the discussion here, what I'm a little bit missing is the role of the education system, the training system. We need to build a new training system, flexible training system, quality education, quality training system. This flexible training system needs to take into account the needs of the employers and the individuals that are looking for reskilling, upskilling. So how do we do the flexible training system? It is by setting up modules, models-based system, and then maybe we can even speak about micro-credentials. How do we take into account all the different people that are needing these possibilities, whether they are displaced inside Ukraine or fled the country? The digital solutions are there essential, and when we thinking about a system that needs to be based on digital possibilities for learning, and this is underlining the idea of models and micro-credentials. And when Skills Alliance was asking for new members, so Finnish National Agency for Education will join Skills Alliance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seitsalo. I think the first Vice President Minister has to leave us. Thank you so much. Please join me in a round of applause. The second intervention from the floor is from Philip Justus, who is the Vice President of Central Europe at Google. Again, 1 minute, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much. We're delighted to become a part of the Skills Alliance today. When the invasion of Ukraine started, as Google, we asked ourselves the question, how can we help? What can we do for the people in Ukraine? And one way to help, of course, is through access to reliable and trustworthy information. That's our core mission. But another way to help is actually through digital skills. So we decided to put together some skills trainings, and I would characterize some of them as entry-level trainings for everybody who wants to learn digital skills, but also some advanced trainings. For example, on AI, we have an AI skills training, which has become very popular, as you might imagine, as well as a cloud skills training, again, somewhat more advanced, probably more for developers. And we have been amazed by the interest that we have seen in Ukraine. So actually, over the last 2 years, 96,000 people have joined these online trainings. That's much more than we had expected. And I think I'm mentioning this number because I hope that other companies, other businesses, some of them may be here in the audience, would also think about what can you do? What are the specific things in your industry where you can offer trainings or courses? Because there's a lot that we can do as businesses, and that's why we're delighted to be part of the Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you actually for this important message about the contribution of Google, but actually the invitation for other businesses, international companies actually to play a role. I think there is space in the Skill Alliance for everybody. So this closes the first round of our panel today, and I'd like really all of you to join me in a round of applause for all our speakers. We already applauded the Vice Prime Minister, but there are other important speakers. So, Minister Schulz, you will stay with me, and thank you so much. And then I invite the second round of speakers to join me here, please. I will introduce them. I have Mr. Gert van Koopman, the Director General of the European Union's Neighbourhood Enlargement Negotiation, the engineer of the European Commission. Welcome. I have Mr. Alexandre Shubin, the Vice President of the Federation of Trade Unions of Ukraine. Welcome. I have Beate Andres, the Regional Director for International Labour Organization Office of Europe and Central Asia. Welcome, it's a great pleasure. And Tatiana Berezna, the Deputy Minister of Economy of Ukraine, welcome, Deputy Minister, with us. And of course, we have the Minister of Economic Cooperation and Development of the Federal Republic of Germany, Madame Schulz. So maybe I'll start with you, Mr. Kopman. Equipping Ukrainians with the right skills for recovery, I think we have been discussing that, requires including investing on upskilling and reskilling, vocational training. And this is actually essential for actually preparing the labor market we need now and in particular for the recovery. What is the role of the European Union to help Ukraine improve in vocational training for the labor market condition of today, the labor market condition of tomorrow?
Well, thank you very much for that. Is it on?
Yes.
Thank you very much for that question. Delighted to be here on this panel. This is a critical subject. I think the labor force, both in quantitative terms and in qualitative terms, is absolutely fundamental for the future of the country and for the success of the recovery. So we're very focused on that. As you know, the overarching economic recovery strategy of Ukraine is laid down in the Ukraine plan, which is financed under the 50 billion euros Ukraine facility. And the plan sets out a series of reforms covering both micro, macro and labor market to ensure the success of the recovery. And the financing under the plan, so the 50 billion euros, is conditional on those reforms being implemented. As I said, the labor market plays an important role in this regard, and the funding, therefore, is absolutely critical in this plan to ensure that the labor market moves forward. Vocational training is an important piece of it. We welcome very much the Skill Alliance. We're also contributing to it. There's a huge partnership out there. But clearly more is needed going forward. One critical issue will be to ensure that Ukrainians residing in the EU can return as soon as the conditions allow it, and we're investing heavily under the plan together with our Ukrainian partners to allow this. I think given the training that many of them are receiving in EU member states, and the labor market experience they have, because this group is actually very well integrated in the EU labor market, we will be transfusing this knowledge throughout Ukraine's economy as they return. That will be an important contribution that we can make. The plan and the EU member states support, together worth 100 billion euros since the start of the war, are extremely instrumental in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kopman. Thank you for mentioning the EU-Ukraine plan, but also from the fact that we need to invest on the Ukrainians who are residing in other European countries now, so that when they come back, actually they can bring also the skill they might have acquired. That's a very important point. I'd like to turn to you, Mr. Shubin, because there are many challenges, of course, your country is facing, but also there is a risk that as we go into rebuild, address the many needs that your country is needed, we have to focus also not only on the quantity of job, bringing people into job, but also making sure that these are good jobs, decent jobs with respect of labor rights. So how do you see the challenges we are facing also from that particular respect?
Thank you so much for having me here. As I was instructed to be precise and brief, I will use my notes, which I usually don't do. You know, in the end of the 19th century in Denmark, in times of extremely hard social and economic crisis, an agreement was signed. An agreement between workers and employers, and it was called September Compromise. And this agreement created the basis for so-called Danish model, which later was called flexicurity model. And it is totally based on social dialogue and collective agreements. And later in the 20th century, many issues, many problematic severe crises were solved here in the European Union using the tools of social dialogue. Because the social dialogue is based on unity, solidarity, mutual respect and goodwill. These very components help people to solve the most severe crises and problems. And today we heard a lot about the problems at Ukrainian labor market. The ILO specialists estimate that in order to rebuild Ukraine, we need more 8.6 million of working places with skilled workers. And this is actually our goal. And it means that we have to unite all the Ukrainians. We have to unite the Ukrainians who return from the army, talented youth, all the people who can work, women who can and want to work, people with disabilities and other special needs, and of course people under temporary protection here in the European Union. And for this we need both the European level of guarantees and rights and the European quality of working places. Plus, we have to find the answers to the needs of these categories of future workers, meaning wages, houses, security, accessibility, childcare, social protection, respect, and of course education and skills. And can the government solve these problems by alone? No, we believe not. Because here we need the unity of the whole nation, the political forces, the NGOs, business, worker representatives, employers. We need social dialogue. And we need not only national social dialogue, we need... Thank you. We need not only national social dialogue, we need trans-border, we need regional social dialogue. And that is why we congratulate our constructors on signing memorandum between the employers and the employees in construction sector, which was presented yesterday here in pre-event. That is why we trade unions promote our statement on the quality of future working places. That is why we call on support of our joint projects, like, for example, Waiting Home, inviting our co-citizens to return home and to participate in rebuilding process. That is why we think that we need social dialogue, including special social summit on future human-oriented recovery. In 1577, Nicholas Breton wrote, "They must take pain that look for gain." We're looking forward for a bright future for us and our kids. And for recent years, we have taken so much pain, we in Ukraine. But to transform our pain into our gain, we need unity, we need social dialogue, and we believe in our bright future. So please stand with Ukraine, stand with us, and together we will win. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you very much, Mr. Shubin. I think social dialogue is important in each and every country. I think it's perhaps even more important in your country, given the significant, major, unprecedented challenges that it's facing. So thank you for your testimony, and thank you for all the work you're doing to actually turn a social dialogue into something concrete and actually effective. And I think there cannot be better transition to Mrs. Andres from the ILO. There are many, many different challenges. One of these, I think, has been discussed in this panel and also in the previous panel, is actually helping women. Women who have left the countries and maybe have unprecedented challenges to face, to work, to sustain their family, their children, but also those who actually are still in Ukraine. So what can be the concrete measures and sort of support that can be given to women and displaced women and those actually living in Ukraine to help them contributing also to the recovery phase to build and upgrade their skills?
Well, good afternoon, first of all, and thank you for that question. Mr. Shubin already threw in a number, 8.6 million workers needed in the Ukrainian labor market based on the government's ambitious target of 7% annual growth of the GDP. And by the way, this is a number we jointly produced. And I want to add another one, which we hope will change and is already changing very quickly. And this is an estimate of the female labor force participation before the war, 2021, which stood at 47%, far below the European average, which is about 70%. So that number, that percentage, as we heard already earlier, is already changing. But the big question is really how can we unlock the potential of the female labor force in Ukraine? And this really is an opportunity not just for the women themselves, first and foremost, but also for employers, for trade unions to increase also membership among women, and of course for the Ukraine as a country as a whole. So let me just very briefly mention 3 areas where we believe investing in those areas would really make a difference. The first is and we heard this earlier from some of the speakers also from the floor, investing in the TVET system and in particular in the digitalization of the TVET system to make it more accessible. Women who've been displaced internally abroad to be able to upgrade their skills to match needs of the Ukrainian labor markets if they want to return or reintegrate into their communities. We have actually worked together with the Ukrainian government on some of those tools, online platforms as well, and the uptake is very, very positive. And it will not only increase the participation of women in the labor market through these skilling initiatives, but also, as we heard, disabled people, young people. So it's really, the intention here also is to upgrade curricula to make them more diverse and to attract other groups of people into the labor market, including in jobs which were historically male-dominated. The second area it goes beyond skills, but also needs a skilled workforce, and that's investing in childcare, in particular in early childcare. So we need care providers. By the way, right now as we speak, ILO constituents in Geneva negotiate standards on the care economy. So how to invest in the care economy? We have worked, again, together with the government and local employment partnerships, local communities, employment services, to extend childcare solutions, working with employers' organizations. So here again, also the social partners play a key role, providing incentives to employers to provide childcare also on their premises. And of course, to change laws to make the childcare responsibility more equal between men and women. And third and finally, what I want to mention here today is, and coming back to Minister Schulze earlier, very important words on the quality of job. I think, and what Mr. Shubin just said now, if Ukraine wants to attract women, especially those who are abroad, but also internally, it's important to promote the principle of equal pay for work of equal value, core principle of the ILO. But also to promote other labor standards, occupational safety and health, etc., freedom of association and collective bargaining, so that workplaces can really be built that help Ukraine to leapfrog into the digital and green area, and not to build forward better. And in this sense, the ILO is really proud to join the Skills Alliance, and let's make sure that the Skills Alliance also work for women. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for mentioning in particular the huge potential of actually promoting better access of women to the labor market in Ukraine. Actually, one interesting result I think was mentioned by Mr. Koopman. For those women who had to leave the country or actually living in other European countries, their integration to the labor market has been relatively high and quick. So there is a huge potential. They're willing to work, they're able to work. And thank you also to mention the fact that we don't have to look at the policy from a silo point of view. So skill policy on the one end, but also participation of women also depend on childcare. So thank you for mentioning this important whole-of-government approach. I really would like to go back to the government and to the Deputy Minister of Economy, Mrs. Berezna. You're facing enormous challenges. What is the role of education and skills in the basically policy of the government altogether? What is its role and what you need also from the international community?
Dear ladies and gentlemen, actually it's not our first panel today. We had a lot of talks on investments, on energy, on future of Ukraine, on security, and actually everywhere, on every panel, human capital was a cross-cutting issue. It means that it is a big challenge for us all and also a big potential. So why should international community actually care about Ukrainian labor market and Ukrainian human capital. Our President Volodymyr Zelensky always says that to ensure our victory, Ukrainians of the working age have either to work or to fight. And we have no other choice. As you know, as it was already been said, over 1 million of Ukrainian men and women defend our country on the eastern border of Ukraine. Actually, not only our country, but all the democratic and civilized countries of the world. But at the same time, people who are economically active, who pay taxes, who create working places, actually make the heart of Ukrainian economy beat. And it was already said that it's actually armies who win the battles, but it's economies who win the wars. And all the profit taxes that our enterprises are paying, all the income taxes our workers are paying, they are actually the fundamental to win this war, to defend our country, because our armed forces, defense systems are actually financed by that. And we need that source, that beating of Ukraine, heartbeating of Ukrainian economy, because we all know that the bloodthirsty appetite of Putin is not only Ukraine, it goes far beyond. So we need together, all together unite to ensure the strong development of Ukrainian human capital. And we need to see this clear link between the strengths of Ukrainian workers, of Ukrainian labor market, and the security actually of the whole Europe. So it's a big priority for Ukrainian government to have on board a lot of international partners like our Skills Alliance, like our trade unions, like our workers, employers, as a social dialogue to ensure this strength of Ukrainian labor market and Ukrainian human capital. Where we see are the most biggest potential to unlock these talents, to help Ukrainian people actually to deploy their skills, their knowledge, and their talents. A lot of potential is actually in reskilling. In Ukraine, we promote this philosophy of lifelong learning. We understand that the skills that Ukrainian people have now, in a lot of moments, do not longer meet the requirements of the new economy. We see that Ukrainian VETs establishments actually need new equipment and need modernization. This is where we also call our partners to help us. Women. Actually, we understand that a huge potential and the future of Ukrainian economy actually lies on the shoulders of women. As soon as they have now a lot of roles, they defend our country at the front line. They are mothers, they are workers, they are entrepreneurs, they are volunteers. And to help also them to unlock this potential, I absolutely agree, need a strong network of childcare institutions, so that the women in Ukraine, also men in Ukraine, can easily have a balance between personal obligations and work obligations. A lot of potential is also we see in veterans, in people with disabilities. In Ukraine, only 16% of people with disabilities of the working age work. It means that the government of Ukraine also pays a lot of attention to creating good conditions for their employment. We reimburse expenses spent by the employers to equip working places for Ukrainian people with disabilities in Ukraine. And as you know, due to this severe war, the number of people with disabilities is getting more and more day by day. So our working places have to be inclusive, and this is we also see a big potential to grow. SMEs. Resilient, massive, strong SMEs, easy to relocate. They are also the employers that we have to keep in mind. In Kharkiv region, since the beginning of 2024, 6,000 of new SMEs were created. So as you see, this resilient, small economic powers are still working, and we also call on our investors to help us to boost SME sector in Ukraine. So we want to once again thank for the launch of Skills Alliance in Ukraine. Today we also announced Great Ukraine program with the EU and Lithuanian government, which will involve Ukrainians who are now abroad to work in the state institutions. And actually, just a final word to say that the recovery of Ukrainian labor market is not the result of our victory. It's a path to our victory. So here, united efforts of all of our partners need and will help us to make this way and to make this path stronger and more effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, also for this testimony. I think many things you said, all together united. I would like to capture that, because I think the Skill Alliance objective is precisely that, to work together and actually contribute to Ukraine by actually focusing also on the skills. I'd like to come back to you, Minister Schulze. I think there are many challenges we have been discussing in this panel and the previous panel. One is actually to help those who are internationally displaced. There are 5 million of them. Many actually are in Germany. What do you think Germany is doing? What can be done also to invest on their skills while they're living abroad, so that when they come back, they can actually immediately contribute to rebuild a better Ukraine? What are the major challenges and what are the initiatives that Germany is taking and that actually the international community can focus on?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we all agree that skills are the key to a fair, to an inclusive, to an efficient labor market. And that is also the core of the strategy to support Ukrainians that are seeking protection in Germany. And my colleague, Hubertus Heil, the Minister for Labor, launched an action plan for labor market integration of refugees and displaced persons from Ukraine and refugees from other countries. We call it Job Accelerator. And with this Job Accelerator, we are investing in the skills and the qualifications of displaced Ukrainians in Germany. And we do that with a dual intent. On the one hand, it is our intention is to sustainably integrate the Ukrainians in the German labor market and reflect the capabilities of each of the person. And they are very well educated, they are with high skills, so we need to integrate them in our labor market. And therefore it is really important to upskilling them in tandem with work. And that is one thing we do. And on the other hand, our intention is to upskilling potential returnees, because the new skills and work experience that displaced Ukrainians again abroad can be brought back to support the recovery of Ukraine. And on top of that, Ukrainians will bring back the networks to Germany. They are bridge builders between Ukraine and Germany. And Germany closely works together with the Ukrainian Ministry of Economy in the scope of an institutional partnership. And the objective is to cushion the effects of the war for the Ukrainian labor market. And we are teaming up to improve public employment services. We want them to be more efficient while putting a focus on upskilling. And our goal with this partnership is to support Ukraine on its way to EU membership, but we want also to make the Ukrainian labor market attractive for returnees. And I firmly believe that the people who return to Ukraine will be an important bridge builder for our two countries, for the benefit of both of Germany and a stable, democratic, free Ukraine. And I hope that a lot of other countries see that dual use, so that it's better to train the Ukrainians that are in the countries, to integrate them in the labor market. Maybe they stay or they return back to Ukraine, and in both it is good to invest in the skills.
Thank you very much, Minister Schulz. I think this is the end of our panel. I'd like you really to join me in a round of applause, because we have heard a lot of very important messages, but also they've been on time. Thank you very much from all the speakers from the first round and for this second round. Now, the role of the moderator is to try to sum up. It's simply impossible. We heard so many important messages, but I just want to leave you with three ideas. One is that I think we all agree in the first and the second round, the skills, investing in education and skill is just essential. It's essential to actually the resilience of Ukraine today and actually to rebuild a better Ukraine also, hopefully, in a very near future. The second point is that we should leave nobody behind. And I think we need all forces. We need government with the right policies and with the international support. We definitely need also a social partner, and I think social dialogue indeed has to be a core element of the reflection on the type of skill we need, how to build these skills, and actually bring everybody on board. A sense of, in a very complex situation where I think Ukraine is also a sense that there is a lot going on. The Skill Alliance and I think the many interventions today have simply singled out how many things are going on. And I think this is just reassuring because there is not only a huge effort made by the Ukrainian people themselves, but actually through the international community. Coordinating this effort, I think, is essential, and that's why I think the Skill Alliance can be a very important tool. Again, a plea for all of those who have not yet joined the Skill Alliance to do so, I think can be really a very important tool to help Ukraine. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. Again, thanks to our speakers. I think this has been a very interesting panel indeed. Thanks.
It's really, I think it's the first. Thank you so much.